Morning, guys. Welcome back to our next session. Today we'll cover word processors. We've done this topic before, so it's a lot to do with review, and we're gonna be talking about the importances of word processors and different usage of the features that are provided in Microsoft Word. So last week we finished up with operating system software and application software. So you should know how to differentiate between both of them now. So let's start off with talking about word processor applications. You guys know these things as Microsoft Word. So if you're trying to type out something, and what we use in school is Microsoft Word, but like last week we categorized each software applications into some type of name, right? Like accounting software, graphic software, and so forth. So the category for applications like Microsoft Word is word processor applications. And below here you'll see an image of other word processing applications that are not Microsoft Word, but they all fall under that category just the same because they all allow you to do something similar, if not almost exactly the same as Microsoft Word. You have the LibreOffice document. I think they call it Writer or Open Office Writer. You have Google Docs, which I know some of you have been using since we had this quarantine starting, and all these other companies with their own names that they give to their software. And it's common, like today we tend to give categories of things or services. The name we call them by is the name the company gave them, and it's usually with the most famous or the most used ones, right? Like we won't say we're gonna use the word processor, we're gonna use Word, right? We don't say we're gonna use a word processor. We usually say, all right, use Google Docs and so forth. And it's the same with like search engines, like we say Google that, even though Google is the name of the company, but it's a search engine, right? So we talked about some of the importances, even I think like last year, of why word processors are good, why we use it, and how does it impact us today as opposed to earlier. Right? Word processors help reduce the amount of work that we need to do because we don't have to be erasing or having to start over if we make a mistake. Back then when you were using, well, not you, right? But when not even me, when they were using typewriters, they didn't have the option to just backspace on words, because once you typed on something, the letter is stamped onto the paper right then and there. It's almost like if you're printing every letter as you type, right? Because that's how typewriters work. So one of the major benefits of word processing software is that everything is electronic, so you can delete and edit as much as you want. Another benefit is to be able to copy and paste, and also be able to share multiple texts to the people you want to read it. For example, when we're using mail merge, all of you should be familiar with this term at this point. We all covered it in class, in the lab. So instead of having to manually or physically type out, thousands and thousands of letters for your customers or for a company's customers, they can just write one letter and then, of course, create a source file and put in all the information that can be changed in that file, like the person's name, the person's location. Maybe they have a special promo code that you want to give them, and you can give them each a different one using your recipient list or the source document, right? And then finally, with word processors, we can save our work and come back to it at any time. With typewriters, when you're typing, yes, you could just stop typing and whatever you type will be on the paper, but anything could pretty much happen to the paper while you're typewriting, right? Maybe if you just leave your typewriter there for the day and you come back, you don't know what might happen to it. Maybe it might rain and maybe it might leak and water might get on the paper. You don't know if maybe the typewriter might fall off the table or something and then the paper gets dirty or maybe torn. But because everything is electronic with word processors, we could type out what we want, we can make changes, and then we can save our work onto the hard drive, right? Makes things more efficient, right? Like you say, Gerardo. And it makes things more accurate as well, because here's the difference between accuracy and efficiency. Efficiency is about saving time. You're doing something that doesn't take too long, and that's what copy and paste lets us do, and that's what editing lets us do, because we don't have to write everything over. Accuracy is getting things correct, and that's the same thing with editing as well. You can make it accurate because if you make a mistake, you can just delete it. So here we see a little cycle of what we usually do with word processors. We type out our work, or we type out what needs to be conveyed to the reader. We make our changes by editing, whether it's to style something to look different, or whether to maybe fix or change how we explain something. We save our work, because that's a drawback in a way that word processors are still like typewriters, because if you just open a Word file and you start typing and then you close it, it will ask us, do you want to save? And if we say no, then it doesn't get saved, right? So if you go and type and you just close it, don't save, then it's almost like a typewriter in that regard. But we usually save our work to make sure that we have access to it later on. Alright, so this is your typical cycle here. No, you don't need to do what I'm doing, John. This is just an explanation session. Remember, I upload the notes already. It's already here in the reading, in the Word file. It's the same Word file I'm reading from. But the videos are just there to help you maybe listen and understand maybe some parts that you don't. So we move on to the different style choices or the different features that Microsoft Word offers. Again, this is right in the reading material, but when you start Microsoft Word, you have your different tabs here: Home, Insert, Design, all the way to Help. And it's always, or usually it starts in the Home tab as soon as you open Word. And what you have here is on the left hand side, you have options to copy and paste without having to retype. So if you wanted to cut something, you'd highlight what you want and then you click on cut or copy. So I have my menus up here, and then it's gonna copy. And if I want to paste it somewhere, remember that this little blinking line here is called the what? Begins with a C. This blinking line of where I'm typing. Wherever that blinking line is, and whatever function you use or feature you use, like if you wanted to paste, that's where it's gonna paste. Alright, so keep that in mind. Anytime you're doing something in Word, that's where it's gonna probably be applied, where that blinking line is. So those are the copy paste functions. You can also right click, so after you highlight something, you could right click and copy that way. That's usually the faster way, but then the fastest way is to highlight what you want to copy and then use the keyboard command Control and C, right? And if you want to paste, it's Control and V. Alright, so other style features you have here is bold, which is a B, italic with I, underline with the U, and the line underneath it. We used that already. Again, this is mostly just review. You have your alignments here from this all the way to this one. Basically, it aligns, or it puts the text, oriented on either the left, the right, the center, or justified based on what you're looking for. So if you want to center the text, maybe for a title, you'd put it in the middle of the document. Then you'd go with the center alignment, which is this one here. If you wanted to keep things normal, you keep it left aligned, which would already be chosen. And if you want to align something to the right, you'd want to click on the right align. For example, when you're writing addresses for certain letters, you'd put some of the address on the right hand side. And then justify, this one just basically tries and fills out all the space, so it'll add some spacing between the words to try and fill out the entire space of the document. Alright, and then we get to bullet points, which is an unordered list. It's to allow you to write list items, but it doesn't have any priority or any order. And then finally we have numbering, which is also a list, but it's used to write out lists with priority, which is defined by the numbers. So number 1 is most important, number 2, then number 3, 4, 5, and so forth. Here you'll see I have some basic definitions or descriptions for each of those functions or features, so go ahead and give those a read. I talked about the different emphasis styles, which is bold, italic, and underline. Remember, I talked about how when would you use bold, when would you use italic, when would you use underline. It depends on what you're trying to convey, at least that's what I believe, right? So I'll allow you guys to read that, and I'll keep moving on here. Then we covered the font style, which if you want to start typing using a different look for those words, you click on the font style here, and it will offer you a lot of different styles for the text that you're writing. And once you find a good one, you could just select it, right? So that's the font style. You could select different styles like here. Then on the right hand side of that, right beside it, you see a number that's called the font size. Therefore, you could go ahead and just change the size of the text, if you notice here. So depending on what you're trying to do, you'll change the font size. Again, if you're trying to write a title, maybe you want to go with a slightly bigger font size than your writing text. Alright, and other than that, I just wrap up and talk a little bit about what else you could do in terms of features. Remember what a feature is, right? It's additional functions and additional things you can do that helps highlight the main task of your application, like word processors. The main task is to write something, right? Or type out something. All the other styles and so forth are features. Alright, and maybe just some additional coverage of what I didn't label is, for example, the font color. You could go ahead and click on this letter here, and you could choose the color of the text that you highlight. So that's another thing you can do. Alright. Another thing is you could also increase and decrease the size of your font one step at a time using these two labels here. So you could do it 3 ways. You could set the font size using this letter here. Arrow pointing down means minimize or make it smaller. Arrow pointing up means to make it bigger. So this is a one step if you don't want to go and choose the number from the drop down here. Other than that, you can also lowercase and uppercase using this button here. So if you wanted your letters to be all caps, you could choose that option. If you want it to be lowercase, you could choose that option, and so forth and so forth. Alright. Besides that, we didn't really cover much of the other styles. I'm just trying to cover the styles that people use most often. So that's about it for this week. Make sure you guys read the document. This isn't the assignment. As you guys know, assignments are on Thursday. As usual, you read the document provided and you answer the questions that I post. All questions are going to be posted in the class. I have your assignment ready, but as usual, I post it on Thursdays. For the most part, the points from these assignments are for the extra points. So those of you who are failing, I use these assignments to help boost some of your grades. Alright. Other times I also see who's doing the assignments and who's not doing the assignments. So that plays a role on your grades as well. Alright, so your assignment is ready, but as usual I'll be posting that on Thursday. And as usual, you read the documents provided and answer the questions. If you guys don't have any more questions, I'm gonna end the stream here. But if you do, type it in. I'll give you guys a minute. Yeah, this is about it. Alright guys, same to you, stay safe. Make sure you guys, again, adhere to the rules of the quarantine. And keep up the good work, guys. Alright. Alright then, have a good day. I'll see you guys on Thursday. Make sure you do your assignment then.